Chicago, he got out of his hospital bed, tried to walk, collapsed, and died. He was only 34. The city of Montreal was in shock. Howie Morenza's body was taken to the Forum so his fans could say goodbye.
Well, it was quite an impressive sight, all right. You know, 15,000 people. It was very, very quiet, nevertheless, in the Forum, eh? Where Morenz played his best hockey and thrilled the thousands of people over the years. He told me one time, he said, whenever I can't play hockey, he says, I'd just as soon be dead. Yeah, I remember him telling me that. Yeah.
Howie Morenz is not the only ghost to haunt the Montreal Forum. There are the spirits of countless playoffs past, uncounted cups to come, and of the man whose name and number are the greatest legend hockey has ever known.
La rondelle est mise au jeu. Émile Bouchard reçoit la rondelle à la ligne bleue. Il lance vers le filet de Brodal. Le disque est pris par Stewart, qui à son tour lance le caoutchouc à la ligne bleue. Et c'est Blake qui reçoit la rondelle. Passe à Mansdell. Mansdell à Richard. Richard lance. Et goal! Maurice Richard! C'est maintenant 3-2 pour le Canadien. Alors qu'il ne reste plus que 14 secondes à jouer en troisième période. Maurice Richard.
We all wore the same costume as Maurice Richard did. The red, white, and blue costume of the Montreal Canadiens, the best hockey team in the world. We all combed our hair like Maurice Richard, and we used a kind of hair glue to keep it in place. We laced our skates like Maurice Richard. We taped our sticks like Maurice Richard. We cut his picture out of all the newspaper, and we knew everything there was to know about Maurice Richard. On the ice, when the referee blew his whistle, both teams would rush at the puck. We were 5 Maurice Richards, again 5 other Maurice Richards, throwing themselves on the puck. We were 10 players, all wearing the uniform of the Montreal Canadiens, all with the same burning enthusiasm. We all wore the famous number 9 on our backs. How could we forget that?
Hello, comment ça va? How are you?
Yeah.
You speak French or...
French and English.
In English. Fixez ton nom à toi.
Patrick.
Patrick Paris. Tu es un joueur de hockey?
Oui.
Tu joues pour qui, là? Mont-Royal Hockey, c'est quoi ça? C'est dans l'Université de Montréal?
It has been more than a quarter of a century since Rocket Richard scored his final goal.
Je me rappelle pas de l'avoir rencontré, mais est-ce qu'il demeure dans ce bois ici?
Many of the youngsters who still fight to wear his number on their backs likely wouldn't recognize the man who made it famous.
Tu connais pas ça? Et moi, j'ai joué ici au hockey dans ce terrain-là. C'est bon. Comme ça, tu
And
sais
the
à peu
record
près
book he once dominated now scarcely contains his name.
I think I had about 24, 25 record in the hockey book in the National Hockey League. And I had many in the Stanley Cup playoff. And today, after 25 years, well, I don't think I got one left during the season. Well, no doubt there should have been two set of records. And they should have stopped the record in 1967 when they did the first expansion. Well, it's hard to compare. I hate to talk about that with the young generation because they never saw hockey 25, 30 years ago.
It was more than 40 years ago, in 1942, when Maurice Richard first joined the Montreal Canadiens. In training camp the following season, Coach Dick Irvin put him on a line with Elmer Locke and Tove Blake. The punch line, they were called. And in 1945, the Rockets scored 50 goals in 50 games, beating the record set in 1917, the very first year of the NHL. In just 3 seasons, Richard had become history's most explosive scorer.
I just felt the same way all the time, nervous. I was always nervous. And when I was on the ice, I wanted to win so much that there's a lot of things that I did I don't remember. And a lot of the goals that I score, I don't remember.
But it wasn't just the goals the Rockets scored, it was the way he played. When Elmer Locke scored in overtime to win the 1953 Stanley Cup, Richard hugged him so hard he broke his nose. Goalie Terry Sawchuk said the most fearsome sight in hockey was the Rockets' eyes. And in Richard's tempestuous career, there was no more stormy season than 1954-55. The Rocket leading the scoring race he had ironically never won, the Canadiens battling their arch-rivals Detroit. It was an emotional time. He was by now a hero across Canada and a tribal god in Quebec. More and more often, he faced strong-arm tactics, argued with officials, and retaliated. It came to a head in Boston, just 2 weeks remaining in the season. Richard fought Bruin defenseman Hal Leko. He hit Leko with his stick and broke it. He grabbed another and hit Leko again. Restrained by a linesman, he attacked him too. For league officials, it was the last straw. When he returned to Montreal, Richard was summoned to the office of NHL President Clarence Campbell.
Whether this type of conduct is the product of temperamental instability or willful defiance of the authority in the game does not matter. Richard will be suspended from all games, both league and playoff, for the balance of the current season.
Yeah, I don't think it deserved the suspension of the whole playoff. I got suspended for the last 3 games of the season, but the playoff had nothing to do with the season. I think the decisions, they should have taken another decision to suspend me for the following season, maybe for 10, 15, or 20 games. But the playoff was kind of hard to take.
The suspension hit at the very heart and soul of French Canada. The following day, the Canadiens were to play Detroit.
The main entrance of the Forum on St. Catherine Street, a huge crowd of people.
Before the game, a crowd gathered, growing in size and growing ugly.
They're trying to stop the streetcars. They're on the streetcar tracks, but the police at the moment seem to have things well in hand.
The Rocket arrived just before game time. But the game was secondary. All eyes were on Richard, as Montreal, without him, fell behind. Suddenly, unexpectedly, Clarence Campbell entered the arena. He took his usual seat. Then it began. The deluge of fruit, programs, rubbers, verbal abuse, and violence. The first period had just ended when the bomb went off, sending clouds of smoke towards Canada. The NHL president finally sought refuge. The crowd forgot about Campbell and rushed for the exits. The game was forfeited to Detroit.
They cheer as the police try to push them back. police are now forming a line and pushing the crowd back. Right in the center of it is the fellow saying, Outlaw Campbell.
Outside, the rioting raged on for hours. Stores were looted, cars overturned and set on fire. 8 policemen and 25 civilians were injured. Damage was in the millions. The mob rampaged along St. Catherine Street until 4 o'clock in the morning. The next day, from the ravaged Forum, Richard spoke on radio.
My dear friend, because I always try so hard to win and had my trouble at Boston, I was suspended. At playoff time, it hurts not to be in the game with the boys. So that no further harm will be done, I would like to ask everyone to get behind the team and help the boys to win from Rangers and Detroit.
But there was no happy ending. Teammate Boom Boom Geoffrion won the scoring title and was booed for it. In the playoffs, the Canadiens were again beaten by Detroit. The Red Wings got the cup from Clarence Campbell.
I never did like Mr. Campbell. I wasn't sure it was him that took the decision or the owners, but I think it was a bad decision. And that's what is in my mind, and I got that in my mind since that time, and I'll never forget that.
But Maurice Richard also never lost another Stanley Cup. In the next 5 years, the Canadiens established a record that stands to this day. In 1960, as Montreal defeated the Toronto Maple Leafs to win their 5th consecutive championship, the Rocket scored his final goal.
Assisted by Maurice Richard. Maurice Richard passed it right in front of the net. Moore took a whack at it. Maurice Richard right in front. It's in his score.
Much in hockey has changed since Rocket Richard played his last game, but not the best of it. Wow, the dog. There are still skates for Christmas, and there are still dreams.
Hockey Night in Canada was on radio. On Sunday morning, we would play on the little ice surface that everybody had at that time behind the house. And one boy would be a Toad Blake, another one Elmer Lack, another one Maurice Richard. Like today, I suppose, when you're 10, 12, 13 years old, you hope or you believe at that age that you're going to make a career in professional sport.
From the very beginning, Jean Béliveau's destiny was clear. At home in Victoriaville, Quebec, he recalls the priests who coached him blocking shots with their clerical skirts. By the time he was a junior in Quebec City, they had to build a new rink to hold all the people who came to see him play. At the age of 20, he was the most heralded player in Canada. But then there was a strange twist to the story. Jean Béliveau refused to join the Montreal Canadiens and the NHL.
At the end of my junior time, they had a day in Quebec and where they present me with a car in 1951. First car. I never had a car before. So I decided to play another year. We had a good Quebec Senior League. Panchim Lac was coaching. I decided to play in a year to show my appreciation to the people of Quebec.
Béliveau said it was a matter of loyalty. There were those who said he couldn't afford to turn pro. Indeed, Jean Béliveau made $20,000 a year in Quebec, as much as Rocket Richard, the best paid player in the NHL.
I never hide it. I said it at the time. I said, don't forget, I said, if I'm staying here, it's because I'm well paid. no doubt about that, that I was well paid. I used to report to the Canadian training camp every fall.